Hello and welcome to Prepare for Canada. Our online fairs, we are focusing on settling in Canada, and more importantly, we're talking about something that is very important for newcomers to understand: volunteering and how it can help you not only make new friends, you can also learn a lot, and hopefully you can get a job. And with us today is our subject matter expert. Hi, Sally. This is Sally Fung Ip, who is the coordinator for volunteer resources at MOSAIC. And my name is Nick Nurani. I'm managing partner of Prepare for Canada. Hi, Sally. Welcome.
Thank you, Nick.
So, Sally, when we talk about volunteering, and why don't you give us a quick scan of how many people in Canada volunteer, and what has been your own experience?
Sure, for sure. So Statistics Canada actually did a survey back in 2013. They found that 12.7 million Canadians, or the equivalent of 44% of people, actually did volunteer work. That's 4 in 10 people in Canada. And together, these 12.7 million Canadians devoted about 1.96 billion hours to their volunteer activities, which equals to 1 million full-time jobs.
Wow.
On a local scale, yeah, that's pretty amazing. On a local scale, here at MOSAIC, just within the last fiscal year, we have over 500 active volunteers who contributed approximately 8,880 hours to us.
And I see a lot of people now, when you send out a resume, they put in your volunteer position. Because obviously, companies who are hiring are also looking at that.
Mm-hmm.
So from that perspective, it's also becoming increasingly important to tell people that you're volunteering at a place, and they understand that you're making efforts to get to understand Canada, and you're making an effort to become Canadian.
Absolutely.
That's great. That's great. So why should one volunteer?
Well, Nick, there are so many reasons and benefits to volunteering. Far too many to list, to be honest, but we're going to focus today on some that are specific to immigrants.
Perfect. I think one of the best things I've come across is the fact that it gives you so-called Canadian experience, which is a big barrier for a lot of immigrants coming in, where the employers say, well, you don't have Canadian experience. So if you volunteer at MOSAIC or at any other organization, they know that you're now getting to understand how Canada works, so to speak. How does a corporate environment work? How do you function along with your workmates? So it gives you that Canadian experience, which is very, very important on your resume.
For sure, yes. And the other one related to that, getting Canadian experience and landing a job, is that volunteering can actually lead to a job. Recently, I had a volunteer who I recruited to provide classroom support. A few weeks after she started, the coordinators were so impressed with her that when an opening came up, they immediately offered the job to her, and she's happily working at MOSAIC right now, teaching some of these workshops for the program. So you just never know. You just have to be at the right place, at the right time, with the right attitude.
And what a great environment to learn. When you talk about the learning opportunity, all of us come from different parts of the world. And whilst I keep joking that, Microsoft Word is the same in India as it is in Canada. But the fact of the matter is there are so many new skills that you can learn. Apart from the soft skills, you can learn a lot of the hard skills which you may not be used to. For example, I came to Canada 20 years ago, and 20 years ago, they did not have these multi-function big photocopiers. It almost looks like a mini house on wheels. And so, I didn't understand how to operate that. And I can imagine how it must be for a lot of people coming in. So it's understanding some of these skills that will take time. And getting into a volunteer position puts you into the deep end of the pool, and you have to swim and you have to ask questions. And that's okay, because you're starting to learn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Volunteering is definitely a great way for you to be learning and developing new skills and adding that to your resume for a job search. Another thing that volunteering is really good for is to teach you a lot about the unwritten rules of a workplace. When you are hired, you're given an HR orientation, but it doesn't cover things like how do friendships and relationships with your coworkers work? What's the concept of personal space? Breaks, things like that, all those little things that might not be covered that you really don't know about until you've started working there. Being in a volunteer role puts you in that environment, and you can observe it. Hopefully, it's a place where it's close to the kind of work you want to be doing, so that you know what to expect once you're hired in a position like that. You can avoid all the awkwardness that comes with not knowing a workplace's culture.
Right. Right. No, and that's so important. We come from different parts of the world. In our country, back in India, it's okay to turn around and say, "So, how many children do you have?" Automatically assuming that someone is married, and that may not be okay.
Yeah.
So you'll slowly start understanding how Canada works. So let's get on to the next one. That is networking for jobs and mentors. It is so crucial. When you volunteer, number one, you're going to be meeting people from every different parts of the world, and you're going to be getting a chance to talk to them, and you're also going to be meeting, like you just mentioned, Sally, that you'll meet people who will be in a position to give you a job, or at least connect you with someone, or even mentor you. So networking, it's a great opportunity. I think it's something that every immigrant should. I've even come across some immigrants who got a job like this after coming to Canada, and I've said, now go and network. But I don't have time. Well, we'll come to that later on. But this is exactly what I keep saying. The best time to look for a job is when you have a job. So networking is very important.
Another reason immigrants might want to consider volunteering is to practice their English. It's one thing to be in a classroom with a teacher in a learning environment like that, but it's also equally valuable for you to practice what you've learned in the classroom in the real world. Being a volunteer at an organization like MOSAIC, we really try to provide a safe environment where people can learn and ask questions and not feel embarrassed. And you know what? As a volunteer, you're also getting, an endless supply of people you can practice your English with, from clients to staff to other volunteers. We actually take volunteers with all different levels of English, and we place them in roles that are, suited for them. We want to give them an opportunity to practice their English at different levels.
And that is such a great thing, because the fact of the matter is, when you're put there with someone from a different part of the world who doesn't know any other language but English, even if it's a smattering of English, you're forced to speak English. And you're forced to understand some of the Canadian idioms. Like, Sally, the first time I was in Canada, it was my first job, and everyone else had gone off for lunch, and I was sitting alone because I had to catch up on some work. And I had the UPS man come in and say, "Hey, can I have your John Hancock?" I said, "What is that?" So that is apparently the signature. So, and this is such a Canadian phrase. And you understand all these phrases and these idioms when you're volunteering, because you're going to hear about it from different people. You're going to hear in some languages they use a phrase, and they usually translate it, and you can understand them. Like someone turned around and said to me, "My eyes are bigger than my stomach," and I couldn't understand what that meant until you think about it and say, "Oh, now I get it." But it's a great way to understand idioms and phrases.
Yeah, for sure. I also have an experience as well. When I first came to Canada, I was trying to speak to someone in my very limited English at the time, and she couldn't understand me, and she kept asking me to say, she kept saying, "I beg your pardon, pardon me," and I had no idea why she was begging or what the pardon was. It was very embarrassing, and someone had to explain that she wanted me to repeat myself. So yeah.
And perhaps you can speak about the fact that volunteering gives you a sense of belonging.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've met a lot of volunteers who tell me that they feel isolated, they're discouraged, they really miss home and wonder why they came here in the first place. I want to let them know that they haven't made a mistake. They need to really put themselves out there, get connected with an organization, do some volunteering, give their new lives here in Canada a meaning again, have a purpose, feel like you belong somewhere and that you're part of something bigger. And in MOSAIC, we strive to make sure that our volunteers feel welcome, they're appreciated, and that they are part of our organization. And I want to believe that a lot of organizations feel the same way. Um, so I encourage all volunteers to also get out there, even if you're not currently looking for work. It's great to have somewhere to belong and contribute.
That's so true because you're creating this wonderful community of people who have a common goal for whatever volunteer purpose you're doing it, whether it's the Red Cross or there's an earthquake. You're doing it. You've got a goal. You're joined together as a community, going towards doing something better and to give back. What better way of feeling Canadian than to do something that 1 in 4 Canadians do already? So it's a great opportunity to give back and to start appreciating what Canada means to you.
Yeah.
And let's now move forward. A lot of people don't want to volunteer. And I remember this so clearly. When I wrote an article in my magazine several years ago and I said, it's important to volunteer, I got letters from people saying, are you telling me I should come to Canada and work for free? And I said, no. I'm telling you, you should come to Canada, volunteer, and get to understand Canada. You do a course on understanding Canada, all these reasons that are listed out here for free. You're not paying for it. So it's a question of the perspective.
It is. Yeah, and I hear a lot of people say, I just don't have time. I'm busy job searching. How do I have time to volunteer? Well, you know what? You need to kind of think about this and shift your priorities. If you're saying that your priority is to find a job, volunteering will help with that. We've talked a lot about why you should volunteer, gain Canadian experience, get a job, network. So this will really help. So don't say you don't have time and don't use that.
Absolutely. And it's difficult sometimes. A lot of people feel I can't make a long-term commitment. Maybe they've got family obligations, maybe they've got young children. I can understand that. But here's what I keep saying. You will find small gaps that you can fill. Go and fill them because it will start making you feel so much better. A lot of people feel that they're alien when they come here because you look different, you've lived a different life. And when you get into a volunteer position, even if you don't have a long-term commitment, you're going to start feeling more Canadian. You're going to start feeling that this is your country. You're going to start feeling that you're doing something. You're contributing something. You are of some worth in this country. And that's such a great feeling to have.
Yeah, it is. A lot of people will say, too, I'm so shy. My English is not very good. It's really uncomfortable for me to put myself out there. Well, I say volunteering is a really good way to get over all of those fears. Volunteering provides you a safe place, I mentioned earlier already, for you to ask questions, clarify things, right? And chances are a lot of the volunteers who you meet also feel the same, anxiousness as you do. And you're there to help yourself and also help others as well.
For people who feel shy or uncomfortable, volunteering is the best free way to conquer those fears. And someone say, well, I don't know where to start. Well, the perfect place to start is at the settlement agency that you go to.
Yeah.
Sally, I don't know if I've told you this, but at Prepare for Canada, over 98% of our audience go to a settlement agency, which is extremely high. And the reason they do that is because we emphasize the importance of going to a settlement agency. Now, as my audience is probably listening and watching this, if you don't know where to start, go to the settlement agency. Even if you're not registered, go to organizations and say, I want to volunteer. Just go to, and Sally will show you some ways in which how you can volunteer. And there's several volunteer-based organizations across Canada. There are national organizations, there are local organizations, there are provincial organizations, there are different organizations at the municipal level. So don't tell me you can't find a place to volunteer.
Yeah, there's no excuse, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, so like Nick said earlier, start with the organizations you already have a relationship with, and then look at the people around you too. If you have kids that are going to school, volunteer at the kids' school. If you are you go to a church, a temple, a mosque, or any place of worship, start volunteering there.
And the name of the game is take baby steps. You know what? We don't want you to become a marathon runner overnight. Take baby steps, and then as you start feeling comfortable. Again, the beauty about being in Canada and about working in a Canadian environment is you're not forced to do something. You're free. You know, if the thing with I'll tell you this, the thing with volunteering is it's almost like and I probably shouldn't use this word. It's almost like a drug. Because you get addicted to it, it makes you feel so good. Yeah. So try it out. I'll tell you, when I started my magazine, I put in several hundreds of volunteer hours. I still do, but it's a lot less now because my work takes too much of time. Okay, and so moving from here, where should I volunteer, Sally?
Well, if you can find a volunteer opportunity with an organization that is linked to your profession, of course, better that is. For example, if you're an accountant, you may want to consider volunteering as CPA. If you're in IT, locally there's BC Tech, and then there's if you're a teacher, maybe volunteering in schools. By doing this, you're going to get insider information about the industry and get a chance to network and connect with people who can help you in your job search.
Yeah, and this can be so huge. I tell you, Sally, a couple of months ago, I was at the doctor's, and my regular family doctor, and he had with him another guy. So I said, what's going on? What's happening? He said, well, actually, he's an internationally trained medical graduate. He's a doctor in his home country, and he's come here to volunteer to understand how we do things in Canada, because being a doctor in another country is very different from being a doctor in our country, as you can imagine. It's I had the same doctor growing up until I was, I think, 30. So from childhood to 30, and so it's a very different thing because they're a family doctor, so they take care of the whole family, everyone, and it may be very disconcerting to some people because you're now going out and talking to someone new. But it's such a great thing that this doctor of mine allowed someone to volunteer and to understand how Canadian doctors work.
That's wonderful. It's really hard, I find, when medical professionals want to volunteer here just because of the nature of that industry. So wonderful to hear stories like that.
It is, yes. Thank you. So what should I volunteer to do?
I think if you're not able to find organizations related to your profession, you definitely don't want to rule out other organizations as well. If people did that, MOSAIC would not have any volunteers. Yeah. You want to focus on what kind of skills, and that you can get both hard skills and soft skills that you can get out of the volunteer role. So I think people know that hard skills are specific teachable skills, things like writing, math, computer use, and then there's soft skills that are more transferable. They're not as tangible, but they're equally important when it comes to your job search. So, things like how to get along with people, teamwork, listening skills, all of that stuff. So focus on volunteer roles where you can also gain soft and hard skills that will help in your job search.
Absolutely, and it's so important, especially as you start, going out and looking at it's so daunting. I'm going to volunteer as what? What will I volunteer as? I don't care. Sit in a corner and fold papers if you want. Just do something. One of the key things people forget is when you immigrate, you've lost your entire social circle. Uncles, aunts, cousins, brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers, everyone you've lost. Because overnight, it's almost like you're reborn, but you've got this 30-year-old or 20-year-old or 40-year-old or 50-year-old body. And you say, Now, who do I talk to? And
Mhm.
volunteering can create that new family for you in Canada, that new community for you in Canada.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, we've got lots of different professionals volunteering at Mosaic with us, and that's what they're focusing on too. You don't always find volunteer roles that are necessarily related to your profession. So we've got accountants who are volunteering at tax clinics. They're still able to use a lot of the skills as an accountant. We've got IT professionals volunteering to be computer instructors, and then there are teachers volunteering in workshops, helping out being teachers assistants. So again, we're not an organization that caters specifically to those industries, but we're able to provide experiences for them so that they can develop and continue to develop, these skills.
That is perfect. Sally, thank you so much for being here. It has been wonderful having you on. Thank you for taking your time.
Yeah.
And I've skipped over the question and answer because we've been having this dialogue, so I don't really think we need that. A very big thank you to Mosaic and to you, Sally, for taking time out. As I said, it's such an important thing. It's something that is, I find that most of the things that are important for immigrants are common sense things. And I
Yeah,
think
they really
that's
are.
why we don't really do them. So use your common sense, go out there, volunteer. Sally, thank you very much. A pleasure having you.
You're very welcome. Thank you, Nick.